Welcome to Leadership Kung Fu with your hosts, Sandi and Jennifer Long.
Welcome to another episode of Leadership Kung Fu, where we use the Kung Fu analogy to center leadership concepts, because we believe that leadership is a practice that takes patience to learn and practice to master. I'm your host, Sandi from Satori Consulting in Toronto, and I'm joined by my podcast co-host, Jen Long from Denver, Colorado from Own Up. Jen, so nice to spend time with you today.
Yay, Sandi, how are you?
Good, thank you. I'm excited for today. We're going a little deeper on some topics that we've touched on before. Thinking about our last session, we discussed the idea of expectation drift and how unclear changing expectations create drama and they stall strategy. During this episode, we're going to focus on why it's important to create space for teams to disagree in order for critical thinking to emerge. So, Jen, why don't you start off talking about why that the things like creating space isn't happening? Why do you think?
It isn't happening. In fact, I find that I am spending a lot of time in coaching sessions speaking to people about how to broach difficult things in the heat of the moment. And Sandi and I were both sort of comparing notes, and we'll tell you stories about when you're in the meeting, right? You can say you've got all the psychological safety to put the hard issues on the table, and yet many of you are still holding back. Many of you are really struggling. It's fine when it's, Joe from HR, or it's fine when it's my buddy Bill, who's the CFO. But when I'm in the room with all of the other leaders, or I'm in there with my team and there's energy around the table, I don't feel good about being the person to bring up, hey boss, that doesn't sound like a very good idea. And here's why. And this is more than just psychological safety. It's psychological readiness. It's do you know what to say and how you want to say it when the issues come up? Are you prepared for the conversation? I've got leadership teams who are putting guiding principles together around, talk about the hard things first, and yet can't talk about the hard things.
Right.
That is why we're talking about this today.
Yeah, no, it's so topical for sure, because we're both going through it with our coachees. So one of the things you just said that I think is interesting is that you said, people are, if they need to say it, they need to say the why behind it. So it's not just about blurting something out, like that's not going to work, or I don't agree with that, but you really need to be able to structure your words around why you think it is, right? We're talking about managers and management positions that are at these meetings for a reason, right? They've been brought in, typically, if it's structured well, because they have some kind of skill or some kind of perspective. And so not sharing that, I think, why bother going to the meeting if we're not going to be sharing our expertise when it's warranted?
Right. Why are you on the invite? Why are you at the table?
Yeah.
Why are you at the table if you're not going to bring your knowledge, experience, and perspective?
Right.
And that's what you're being asked for many times when you're into a decision, or you're into a strategic conversation, or you're into, where are we heading, and what kind of what are we going to stop doing, or what do we want to do next? Those are heavier conversations that you are meant to bring to bear, right? If you're on the invite, why aren't you really saying what you're thinking?
Right. So one of the things that I sort of come across a lot is people, they want to go to the meetings because they want to be seen at these meetings, and they're not sharing it because of the hierarchy within the room. So if it was a couple of people that they knew that they work with all the time, that's okay. They feel comfortable. But throw a couple of VPs or directors in the room, and all of a sudden they don't feel that they have the safety to speak their mind, because they don't know what's going to happen. Well, people think that they're stupid, or it's not a well thought out thought, or maybe it could be anything, right? Career limiting if you speak in a moment that somebody feels that you shouldn't be speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really have to say, right, if you're walking out of the meeting and you're having the meeting after the meeting and you're willing to tell somebody what you're thinking, I want to call you out. Why are you not doing that in the room?
Yeah,
What is at stake for you that you don't feel you can bring it up? And how might you gain? So, right, this is where courage over comfort. And we talk about psychological safety in the sense of people misuse that, misunderstand it. I
totally.
feel safe, which isn't the same as I feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
And safety is really designed to be I can tell you these things without blowback, repercussion, judgment, right?
Mhm.
We, they've created space, and that means everyone needs to create space. If your leader isn't creating space, how are you creating space for psychological safety? By saying, I'm going to say some things that some of you are going to react to.
Mhm.
I want to ensure this is a good place to have this conversation because I feel like this is either we say this now or we don't deal with it and we stay in denial. And you can preamble anything you want to bring to the table to ensure, right? This
Yeah.
is a safe space to say this. This is why we're meeting. Is it not?
Yeah. During our pre-meeting to this meeting, this podcast, Jen and I were talking about how we have this ability to be able to do that in the work that we do because we're not, there's nothing for us to lose by sharing our perspective on something, right? And we're actually brought in to do that, which leads me to think about sort of another sort of, you're a leader, but you have other leaders in the meeting. And what is their role in creating this? Like they really need to model the way so that people that are learning can learn from them, right? So all of the leaders need to be fearless in this way. And if you're not learning from your leader, then they're not doing it right.
Right. Or is the person running the meeting running it in such a way that they're like, this is a safe place, but let me judge you when you say it.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
uh, kind of two sides of the mouth, right? Where I'm going to tell you it's safe to say it, and then as soon as you say anything, I'm not going to protect you.
Right, right. Yeah. And so I think, back to the whole discomfort idea, you know, sometimes it feels slow when you're allowing space for people to sort of engage differently. It might feel messy, it might feel uncomfortable. But I think as managers in these roles, they need to not rush decision making, not rush to judgment, and not default to it's just easier to brush something under the rug or not to ask really good questions to get clarity because it's just easier and it's faster. And so the whole managers need to set the stage is really critically important.
Well, it is. And this is, I think, why this is an important topic now, because a lot of organizations are really at a point where this is a stand in your values leadership moment. What are we with the environment that we're all trying to run a business in and work in and exist in? There is a lot of pressure. This is a really hard time to lead anything.
Mhm.
And um, there are serious questions coming from younger workers, younger people in organizations. Like, why is that a thing? Why do we keep doing that? What is the point of this? Right. And those are the things, those are really good agitators for change. Those are really good.
Mm.
And so part of this is understanding, right? Where where's the insecurity in the room?
Yep.
How is that insecurity driving the environment of the group? There, where we can't say certain things, especially if the leader's the one who's the insecure one, who doesn't want to hear what you all really think about their ideas, what they all, right there. If you've got somebody, how do you help them meet you in a difficult conversation to
Mm.
say, I hear what you're saying. I'm sensing you're resisting, really listening to how we're giving you information. What's at stake for you?
Right. Right. And I think it's up to the managers in those points is to really normalize different perspectives. And in order to normalize different perspectives, you have to be able to ask really good questions or allow people to ask questions just to engage in a deeper conversation, a deeper level, right? And part of that also creates space, but integrate diverse ideas and just making sure that you're looking at things from different angles. But you have to be secure in who you are as a leader in that moment to allow those things to happen. And so maybe
Right.
we can talk a little bit about how do we, as coaches, help people feel more secure about who they are and how they're showing up.
Right. And this goes to creating ritual, right? So normalization is ritualization. It's the consistent practice of here's what we do when we get together. Here's what we do when we meet. When we have this, when we are doing a strategy meeting or when we're doing a quarterly, whatever it is, right? Whatever our operating rhythm session might be,
Right.
is what have we done to create the normalcy? What are the rules of engagement for us?
Mhm.
And when we know we've got difficult things to face, how do we set that up with intention?
Right.
And everyone is expecting it. It goes everything from when the invite goes out, what do people need to know to prepare? What should they be prepared to discuss, have an opinion about, make a decision on?
Mhm.
In the room, what are the rules of engagement? And how do we normalize dissent by virtue of creating space for it
Mhm.
and encouraging it and saying, what's the contrarian view here? Nobody in here, especially if we're all too fast to agree,
Yeah.
then maybe when we all go, oh yeah, well, which is might be some what we call satisficing, which is, oh, it's the first idea we landed on, so let's just do that and get out of here. Versus if we're all too fast to get there, what might checking our assumptions look like, right? Step two is what are we all assuming that we haven't said out loud?
Right.
And having that discussion as a matter of course, in an effort to, if we don't get enough dissent, if we all think we think too like, and it's too easy to get to an answer, right? Maybe we put those kind of steps into place.
Right. Which means that if you feel right now as a management or a management team that you're not getting to where you need to in meetings, or people aren't showing up prepared and ready to speak on the things, that you need to take the time now to do all the things that Jen just talked about and put those, those normalizations and those rituals and those norms in place so that going forward that you've created the space. You've taken the time to really think through what it looks like for your organization or for your team, and it gives you something to fall back on.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's what I love about norms is that you can fall back on. It's not like I don't think Jen that you didn't do this. It's like norm number 5 says that we're going to assume positive intent, and yet I don't feel that we're assuming that around what Jen just said.
Right. You got to, the whole reason to have the norms is to leverage them when somebody's not doing it.
Yeah.
It is to say, hey, I thought we agreed to do this thing. Right. So one of the things, if you're gonna have dissension and you're going to have disagreement, is the first person who throws that dissension on the floor, protect them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is protect the space, protect the opportunity to say it. So when everybody goes, well, and especially if it's somebody on the team who normally does it and you all just disregard it.
Mm. Yes, I actually saw that happen last week at a meeting that I was watching, and somebody came out sort of a bit of a guns a-blazing, but they wanted to get their point out early because they knew it would be disregarded. And it was completely disregarded. And yet it was a really valid point, but the voices just all over top of it because it was a hard point to raise and it was counterintuitive to what everybody else thought should end up. And so rather than spending the time in that moment to tell me more, let's discuss it. Are there legs that we need to take from this to apply it to our thinking? They just sort of parked it. And that's
Yeah.
really unfortunate.
Well, and you might have a dissenter that you are ignoring, right? Like when you're like, hey, Bob, that's the 4th time you brought this up.
Well,
Maybe that's
yes.
an opportunity to say, Bob, tell us more about this because you brought
Mhm.
this up 4 times. And instead of ignoring you, maybe we got to talk about this a little bit more in depth, right?
Yes.
Are you noticing where, and your body is going to tell you as soon
Yeah.
as you're
Oh,
comfortable with
where's it
something?
manifesting?
Yeah. that's when, what's the tendencies? How do we want to sweep this? Are we spending enough time on it? And these meetings are, you will go through a physiology, you will go through a tension and a release, and you feel better at the end of it. You should feel as though you've come through something.
Yeah.
Versus if your first inclination is to text somebody under the table about this is BS, or can you believe this? If that's the first clue, is you're not talking. The second one is if you're gathering, right? The meeting after the meeting is the big indicator about, was that successful? Have you really come through something difficult?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, the other is, even if you're not having a meeting after the meeting, if you're going back to your desk and you're questioning sort of what ended up in that meeting, or you're questioning what you did and didn't do in that meeting, that tells you volumes as well. So you don't always have to share it, but if you're really, and even if you're not questioning yourself, I really think self-reflection is important. We've talked about that many times, and you should be all self-reflecting on, did I show up in a way that added value to the meeting? And did I say my piece to ensure that we really had our critical thinking in line with where we needed to go, right? Because a lot of this is about creating an environment where critical thinking can emerge and grow and really set you up for success in where you want to go.
And it is uncomfortable.
Yes.
You are not in the room to be comfortable.
Right.
Embrace that. Embrace that, because that's where decisions get made, right? And if only in there debating it and everything gets put in a parking lot, you've tabled all the really important things. You haven't done anything, right? Because ideally, part of the discomfort, right, is we disagree and then we commit.
Yes.
Disagree such that the decision we make is that much better.
Yeah.
And so if you're not getting to the other end of that, which is the commitment end, right? In a lot of teams, this is the other issue that is always, it's not consensus. Everybody doesn't have
it's alignment.
to agree, right? You need enough momentum in the room such that you can move forward. There will always be someone who, I don't agree. I understand you don't agree. Have you shown me all of your thinking? Have you tabled all of that? If we're all still wanting to move in another direction, can you commit?
Yeah. And those are powerful words, right? So all of the things that how you just wrap that up was beautiful, because it just said, we're not going to assume that everybody's on the bus. Like, use your words to really articulate where you're at. And the other thing to that is I liked what you said about being prepared for the meeting and really outline where it is, what the things that they need to come prepared to talk about. Right? It's a part of the problem, I think, is people get into these meetings, the agenda's not clear, things get thrown out, and you haven't had time to really, personally think about what the implications are. And if you're not a, on the fly sort of thinker, then you may not be prepared to talk. So that's why the meetings after the meetings happen, because, I should have said this, or I should have said that. So
yeah,
I think
with a shoulda.
Yeah. And so as a team, like a lead of a meeting, it's really taking the time up front to allow people to be their best when they show up.
Meetings are a discipline. Anything else. And I think when you have been a long time in an organization, when meetings are regularly calendared, you just, and if you are scheduled like so many executives I know, which are back to back to back to back, you're not doing the prep.
Yeah.
You are showing up in the meeting and doing your thinking in the meeting, not before the meeting. And while, yes, you should be doing some thinking in the meeting, your prep is way more important. What are you there to do? And so this goes into another whole podcast we should probably have about meeting discipline.
Yes.
Like, what does a good meeting look like? How is it facilitated? Is there someone in the room on the team, and this should be a role that rotates, right, who works the room, who works the facilitation, who says, look, Steve, you've laid back the entire session. What have you got to contribute? Right?
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on this? And so that there's somebody there whose job it is to pay attention to the dynamic, to pay attention to, are we living the rules we've set for ourselves, that pays attention to, look, we've talked about this for 40 minutes. Are you guys ready to move to a decision?
Right. And then you look at it from a governance perspective, that's the role of the chair. And many meetings don't have that. They have the meeting who setter upper.
Right.
Yeah, who set the invite, but there isn't like an ownership of that. And so I think, it's brilliant to have somebody who plays that role. And somebody also, maybe if it's a subject that's quite meaty, is to have people assigned to the devil's advocate role and things like that. So that, to ensure that it all sort of comes out. But it is a practice. And we just, unless you're allowing it to happen, creating that space for it to happen, it probably won't happen naturally. And so going back to the leaders need to model the way, they need to show others how it's done, which
Yeah.
means they need to be vulnerable in those moments and say, I don't know everything. I need you as the collective to help me.
Yeah. And stop putting the pressure on the outcome and put the pressure on the thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
And when you're feeling we gotta get this done, guys, we gotta move through this. We can't spend a whole lot of time. When people start with that sort of preamble to here's what we're going to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
and let's shut everybody down right there.
Yeah.
There. Because then it's, well, just give him what he wants. Let's just get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other two is when you don't have the tested thinking. So everybody's just agreed, and we haven't had any sort of, conflict around the discussion. Then it really shows up later, right? You're going to find cracks in your decision making that you could have caught earlier. And so why not take the time?
Right. Yeah. And summarize. And here's the thing, right? And so I'm curious what you think about this, because I just had a client who put in some guardrails around how they're going to meet. And one of the things is silence is agreement.
That's what they thought. That's what they think.
That's the rule. So tell me how you see that.
No, absolutely not. Silence is not agreement. Agreement is, yes, I agree to move forward. Like agreement is, it can be a nod of the head, but also confirming that the nod of the head means yes.
His agreement is, I'm on board, and here's what my part is.
Yes. Yeah.
And I must understand what commitment I'm taking forward and how that impacts me. And I have to be able to understand that. And if I'm not on board with those things, I'm not on board. I can say, yeah. And if I'm in I'll figure it out. I'm not really committed.
Mm-hmm.
And there are levels of agreement that I don't think people understand. They don't, okay. Let's see how this goes is not commitment.
No, that's like, I just want to see it fail.
Right? And then maybe I'll get on board.
And it may, and in that moment, maybe I'll see what's going to happen is that the person who's sort of moving that decision down the pipeline hasn't made a compelling enough argument for people to understand. Right.
And brave enough to say, when they're like, look, I'm not in agreement on this. I'm really, really struggling. I understand you're the only one left, but can you commit?
Yeah.
That would mean for you.
Yeah. Or the opposite, which is I'm not hearing a strong commitment. Tell me what I'm missing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable.
Yeah, but.
Yeah.
The yeah, but is really problematic for alignment.
Right. Yes. Even if you're missing the but, right? Even if it's just that, yeah. You're not saying the but it's there. It's hanging.
But I'm just going to go, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to put my eyes down. I'm not going to.
That level of commitment where they're like, yeah, I'll put a pin in this. And that's where I think all of it just goes to hell.
Yeah.
There is no commitment. There is no alignment. There is no hard conversation.
Yeah.
And this is why this keeps coming back up from a Kung Fu perspective is you don't have the discipline, and it's nothing but discipline. You've got to be uncomfortable. You've got to be prepared. You got to put yourself out there. and it's a workout. And you got to come,
Yes.
you got to feel like, wow, I feel like I've been through something.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And if you're not, I think, if you're not feeling the pressure, then, from a Kung Fu perspective, you're not feeling the pressure of being the best you can be and showing up the best you can be, the technique falls apart.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so in these moments where you can shine, or when you can be the criterion, or you can be the person that says, I don't understand, help me understand, like that's a winning strategy.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think about a lot in those moments is how others see you. And I do believe that when you show up in that space and you say your piece, others will go, look, they are showing up, right? And so from a career perspective, it's a really important, powerful thing to be able to show up, say your piece, or whether it's agreement or not, and others will take note.
Yeah.
It's not career limiting.
It's not
Career creating.
showing up with your knowledge and experience and understanding is what you're getting paid for.
Yes.
It's
There's that
why
too.
in the role, this is fundamental. This is when we talk about showing up, this is what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's to show up when it's your meeting and it's easy and there's no hard decisions. And it's
Yeah.
just often we're rolling stuff. We're just rolling through what we're doing all week.
Yeah.
It's a different thing when you have to have a hard conversation. And
Mhm.
hard only means uncomfortable.
That's
Hard
right.
only means we've got differing perspectives, differing approaches, and we need to come together under alignment. That's really what we mean by hard thing.
Yeah. So let's recap sort of why organizations aren't doing this, or teams aren't doing this a little bit, which is
Because we're now all afraid of each other.
fear of relationships, right? Or damaging those relationships, fear of, career limiting moves, fear of saying something stupid, the desire to be seen as easy to work with, right? Because you're not pushing back. And pushing back is uncomfortable, but pushing back is important when it's something that is important, right? It's, if you see something that others don't see, you're not doing anybody a service, including yourself, by not sharing it, whether people agree with you or not. Holding back is not a strategy.
Right. And this is the epitome of personal accountability. This is you standing in you. And you don't look to your side and you don't look up. And while we say model a thing, you have to stand in you and
Yep.
model for you, because it's your experience, your understanding, your perspective, your disagreement, your lack of commitment, whatever it is. That moment of standing in you is what's fundamental, which is why the group is there together and why you've been put on the invite.
Right. Going back to our very first comments, were like, if you're not saying anything, you're not showing up, other than taking a seat in a meeting, don't bother going. Right? You're there to add value because there's some expertise. So another, I guess, reason would be the fear of the power dynamic, right? Leaders in the room, right? So and that's lack of comfort, lack of the unknown. You want to impress. So sometimes trying to impress, you're too afraid to say anything. I'd like it there and how to disagree. And I think you had some really good words on how to phrase things and how to couch things to disagree respectfully, but to get your point across.
Right. And there's a lot of I language when you're in disagreement. I'm not in agreement. I don't understand this. I feel like I'm sensing, I'm concerned about, right? Because when you own all the things, no one can really come at you in terms of your experience and sensing. They can't speak for that. And so there's a great way to put your dissension on the table using first person, right? Let me do some contrarian thinking because I've got great concerns about the direction the business is heading. And let me share with you what my fears are around this. And you guys can tell me whether or not you think they have any weight.
Yes. Ownership.
Ownership is a place of power.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful thing when you can introduce the dissension, introduce the, let's think about this more difficult, introduce the hard thing, right? And the way you do that without, without setting everyone alight, say, I think your
By
idea
owning it.
been thought through, or you guys, like when you're pushing it to people versus owning your own understanding, owning your own apprehensions, owning your own gaps of understanding. Those are the easiest ways to start to put things on the table.
Right. So, one of the ways is I think I understand what you're saying, but I'm not entirely sure. So can I just reiterate what I think I hear? Because, maybe it doesn't sit well with me, but I own that. Right. And so it's not saying somebody else had a bad idea. In fact, it may have been a great idea.
Right.
But
I mean,
it's not.
The trick you and I work, right? When we go in to facilitate because they're like, can you come in and help us do this? One of the phrases I'm always using is here's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm hearing. Right. And to say, here's what I'm hearing helps people understand this is how they're being interpreted. Here's how they're being experienced.
Right.
And giving that language so that people can say, well, no, that's not what I'm intending. Let me take another run at it.
Yes. Yeah. The other powerful thing is sort of when I'm coaching leaders that are talking in meetings and they're not adding anything, is like, not necessarily why you're there, but what are other people seeing with you being there and not saying anything? And so again, back to that self-reflection about, are you there for a reason? If you've been invited, there is a reason that you should be there, and you need to be participating in a way that levels up the outcome of the meeting.
Yeah. Then leveling up goes right back. And I think this is as we sort of sum up some of the key things that we talked about today is team norms. We can't stress it enough. And I feel like teams struggle with this right now with what is the norm. I'm on a lot of teams. Do we do team norms? And that's just every team, right? You do team norms based on the teamwork.
Yes.
Right? What kind of norms do we need for the work that we do? And that doesn't mean you're always going to have the same norms in every team. And so it's incumbent on you to understand what your team norms are for each team that you play on. But there could be some fundamental basics.
Absolutely, there are. But but it might be project based, right? There's different reasons why they may change a little bit, tweak a little bit here and there. But knowing that and taking the time to do them is important.
Right. Because part of the norms are the things that help you move through the work, move through things like, right. How do we, because part of the norms is if we're how do we move to agreement? What is our decision making about? How do we as a team?
Yeah.
And if you're doing consensus decision making where everybody has to be in agreement, God help you.
Yes.
Right. To understand that alignment is about commitment. It's not about agreement. Alignment is where we've all committed to do the things. And that's what that means for us. And how do we really get strong alignment is because we had really good disagreement.
Yes. Absolutely. And everybody's been satisfied enough to move forward.
Right. Even though you might be in a disagreement, but you've got so many people in the room, you've got to trust the fact that you've got enough team players in there who are on board.
Yeah.
That you're like, all right, give me my end of the oar and I'm going to row.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need to let go, right? You just need to let go. When you talked about Bob and the fourth time you brought it up, maybe there is a nugget in there, but maybe there wasn't Bob and maybe you just need to let it go.
Right.
So I think that's important to know when to say when.
Know when to say when, and right. There's always the pivot, so you can always look forward to that if you need to do that.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And so the whole kung fu analogy is about that practice thing, and we were talking earlier about sparring to practice is important, and what we're talking about today is the practice that you're going to put in place in order to have better meetings and better outcomes and better conversations. And it's putting guardrails and pieces in place that if you use it enough, it becomes part of how you show up and part of your whole kung fu regime.
That's right. Get your guardrails, intentional dissension,
Mhm.
invite into the room, be specific, ask people, protect the dissenter when it
Yes.
shows up, give them space. Um,
Model the way, model how it's being done.
get a facilitator, be a nominated, right? Meeting who's looking at the dynamic, who's monitoring that dynamic of the group, who's helping you move through the conversation, invite all the voices into the room, and then move you to decision making.
Yeah.
How is that happening? What is the mechanism that you guys are putting into place? I always say it's a shared responsibility, and it should move from person to person, meeting to meeting, so that it's hard to be that person to participate and
Oh,
facilitate the
totally. Yes, all the time. Yeah. Yeah.
right, and clear agenda with clear prep work.
hmm And follow through on the decision. Really articulate what it is. This is where we've gotten to.
Summarize
Yes,
summarize
right?
summarize the commitment.
Yeah, so that everybody walks out of the door with the exact same frame of reference and the exact same, I understand what I need to do now as a result of.
Right. And then team reflection. How did that work for everybody?
Yeah. 5 minutes, 3 minutes at the end of a meeting is so powerful.
It would have been helpful to have this on the pre-work. I would have loved to have done that. Oh,
Yes, yeah.
time in discussion on that. I mean, talk to each other, because
Mhm.
that's the only way you get better. And because it's a discipline, let's go back to the Kung Fu, and it's a practice. Not every meeting's going to be dynamic, but you know when you land on it, and then you're like, all right, now that we got a sense of this,
Yes.
keep that momentum. And if you don't reflect on it, you're never going to apply your learning.
Okay. All right. You can tell that's a topic that we love to talk about.
It's what, ironically, that we've both been having. I get to go have one of these meetings as soon as I get out of this podcast.
Yeah, for sure. It happens all around for sure. Okay. So thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time with us again today. And we look forward to talking to you again soon. Comments, we'd love your comments. And if there's anything that you want Jen and I to talk about, please let us know. And we'll try to fit it into one of our podcasts in the future.
All right, go out there, kick some of your leadership butt.
Happy practice.
Happy practice. Talk soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. You can check out Sandi's website at satoriconsultinginc.ca. That's SATORI consultinginc.ca. And you can check out Jen's website at accountabilityatwork.com. If you like what you hear, let us know by leaving a review on your favorite listening platform. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.